This is such an amazing audience, such an amazing country, and such an amazing future.
Okay, welcome back everybody. Hope everybody's fulfilled with food, so don't fall asleep. We have a lot of spaces at the front here, so people come and sit up. Like we said before, we have tickets for next year on sale already, so go and buy your tickets. Only today they are 39 euros, so it's 25th, 26th of May next year, our 10 years anniversary, so don't forget to do that today. I have to say sorry for one thing I did yesterday. So I kept talking about Estonia and America and Europe and so on. There are so many other continents and countries out there, and I know we have a lot of people here from other continents as well, especially from Asia. And Asia is kind of a place where more and more actually also Estonian startups are going nowadays. So the next panel will be all about going to Asia and doing the business there. So I'm happy to invite here Raul Allikivi, who's been studying there, living there, and now does actually business with Japan. And joining him in the panel are Ott, Carman, Kadri, Lambert, and Tugce. So the floor is yours.
Hello. Why should you go to Asia? For me, it happened actually first time 15 years ago when I went to Japan as an exchange student. At first only for 1 year, but I kind of liked it, so I went back to do my master's. And even back in Estonia, I was trying to work things on connecting Estonia and Japan, and Asia in the wider meaning as well. So I was working at Ministry of Economy doing some strategy stuff. And 3 years ago I felt, yeah, it's good, nice to write strategies, but actually maybe more interesting to actually do things. So last 3 years I have been helping Estonian companies get to Japan, a little bit Japanese companies to Estonia, and selling some Japanese craft beer in Europe using Estonia as a gateway. And now also like we are actually joining a startup in Japan, so it's been quite a ride. But maybe we just start with small introductions from the panelists. So, Carman, maybe you go first.
Hello, my name is Carman. I was an entrepreneur for 20 years, and I was also a tech columnist. I wrote my column about internet strategy, internet business model for around 10 years. 3 years ago, I started to do angel investment in a full-time base. And last year, I started my own venture firm, Click Ventures.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tugce, and I'm from San Francisco, running a company called Angel Labs. We're the world's first investor accelerator, and what we do is we work with different countries, building their investor ecosystems, and work with high net worth individuals, family offices, and corporations, and get them involved with investing in technology companies. Before that, I was in venture capital for years, and previously I was an investment banker.
Hi from me as well. My name is Kadri, and I am the co-founder of GameFounders. So GameFounders is a startup accelerator that is operating strictly within the games vertical. And we started in 2012 in Estonia, and in 2015 we expanded to Asia, and we have been now operating there for a year. And we have made a total of 49 investments during that time.
Good afternoon, I'm Ott. My background is in banking and finance and trading. But as you know, this universe is getting boring and over-regulated. So 3 years ago, I quitted it, and we started a company called Lingvist. The aim of a Lingvist is to speed up language learning, to accelerate your second language acquisition. Today, we have 3 offices, Tallinn, London, Tokyo, employing around 35 full-time people. Largest investor is Japan-based Rakuten. So Japan, Taiwan, these are very much in our focus.
So hi everyone, my name is Lambert and I'm from Taiwan. We do KKBOX, which is the online music streaming service in that region. We now have service in Taiwan, Japan, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, and Hong Kong. So we have experience in different countries.
Thank you. Many Estonian startups start with those solutions which are meant for global markets, not only for Estonia. But what we have seen is like usual destination countries to go abroad are, well, English-speaking countries. It's quite simple because people understand the language, it's maybe culturally closer. So we've been looking more towards west. But if you know, actually the sun is rising from the east, right? So maybe there is also a point for looking into east. So I don't know, like maybe we start with Ott actually. Last year you really focused on Japan. So was it the result of really your wide strategy, deep analysis, or just the opportunity presented itself and you just took it?
I would say it's a very opportunistic strategy that we had. But actually the real story goes, but Peter Westerbacka, who was at the stage yesterday, he invited Mikitani's son, the CEO and founder of Rakuten, to Helsinki and Tallinn. And actually we had an opportunity to meet Mikitani's son, and then out of this meeting we built this long relationship. We ended up them investing as a lead investor to our Series A. And now we have an office there, we have a team there, and this is one of the primary focuses what we have. So I cannot really say it was a long-term strategy we built in that manner, but it was an opportunity we used, and now we are rather happy about it, I have to say.
But Kadri, you also started GameFounders in Estonia, yes. But now you have a second office in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Yes. So,
well, if for Lingvist it was more a sort of opportunity presenting itself, then for us it was definitely a strategy. Because in the game industry where we are, Asia is the up-and-coming market, Southeast Asia is the fastest-growing market, so we definitely wanted to tap into that in terms of both the talent, but also the investors and the market potential. So we had a strategy to go there, so when we started in 2012 in Estonia, already 2013, we were looking for options. So we talked to different countries, we looked into different options, but in terms of why we selected Malaysia, the stars kind of aligned because it's very important for us to also have strong local partners besides the money and the talent and everything else that we're looking for. So it sort of aligned with Malaysia the best, and it was actually quite a fast and painless process for us to move.
Okay, so I think Ott and Kadri both said like it's very important to have a good local partner. So I'm asking Carman, you have a very wide portfolio of investments, and not only from Asian countries. So how do you feel about it? Like if a foreign company comes for investment, like you must be a good local partner in that case.
Yeah, so we are the local partner for Asia. And actually we also have an investment in Estonia. We invest in the angel round of Teslio. Maybe many of you have heard of Teslio. So what we are doing, our strategy is to invest in companies outside Asia, being a local partner for these companies to enter into Asia. So why Asia play an important role? If you imagine, if your business, your startup is related to mobile app, so from day one, you need to have a global strategy, and Asia is part of your strategy. So whether you go to Asia in the first year or the second year, ultimately you need to expand to Asia for mobile app, especially B2C or SaaS model that targeting SME market. And another type of startup that should also consider expanding to Asia is when you are hardware related. So the manufacturing hub at the moment is in China or Taiwan. So if you could have a subsidiary in this area, you have a closer relationship with your manufacturing factory, and you have you got a lot of information flow into your startup much faster. And so these are some relevant startups that can consider to expand to Asia. If you are just a B2B startup, I find that a lot of startups could just focus on their own country, focus on B2B, bigger enterprise level companies. They don't need to think of expanding to Asia that fast compared to B2C and IoT related startup. And what we are doing for our venture fund is actually because Asia is a new market, so everybody work really hard, want to create an ecosystem locally. So including the corporate player or the government, really active. Like in Hong Kong, most of the vertical accelerator program in Hong Kong are driven by the corporate, and they are totally non-profit making. So they don't take any equity, and they just give you something free of charge. So a lot of this kind of supporting program, and government also provide a lot of grant to support foreign company to set up subsidiary in their country. So country like Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, they have a lot of grant. And I heard Singapore also have a lot of grant. So some of the grants, like in Hong Kong, like R&D grant, the grant is up to 1.5 million US dollars. So a lot of support and resources in the Asia.
Thank you. Tugce, you have been working with so many investors from so many countries. Like, do you have any stories when you have like, so why are you actually focusing on developing investors in Asia? Like, do you have any foreign startups going to Asia to look for investments, or are Asian startups not able to get investments abroad?
And I'll also, before I answer that, I'll also share like why we are focusing on Asia. It was actually one of our first markets to focus on with Angel Labs, because when I was in venture capital with my previous fund, we were looking at deals coming from all over Southeast Asia, and we went out there as investors based in San Francisco, and we could not, and we were not looking at the main markets like China or Japan back then. We were in Vietnam, we were in Thailand, we were in Taiwan, we went to the Philippines. So our major problem was we could not find any high quality, and I don't want to say any, but maybe not many, high quality co-investors to work with. And as a San Francisco-based fund, or like any foreign fund, if I'm going to invest thousands of miles away from my home, I do want to be able to rely on the local expertise and due diligence of other amazing investors. So that's why we wanted to focus on educating high net worth individuals, family offices, and corporations to get involved with the venture capital or angel investing game. And going back to your question, what are some of the main differences we observe if you, as an investor, and if you want to, or as a startup, if you want to receive funding from Asia? I would say it's both with Asia and Middle East is kind of similar. Trust is very important. Building personal relationships. I think in Silicon Valley, we're very used to having a warm introduction from someone we know, and then getting a meeting. And if we're doing our job really well, if we have the right traction, then it's relatively easy to receive funding in Silicon Valley, I would say. But in Asia, sometimes it might take you multiple trips to get out there, to get to know people, and get them to know you. And trust is, of course, very important. That's probably like one of the biggest differences. The whole process is different. Term sheets are not as standardized in Asia like we have them in Silicon Valley. You, as an entrepreneur, you have way more protective terms and clauses that these investors put in term sheets. So that's on the legal side, it can be kind of tricky for the entrepreneur to understand what these terms mean. They're definitely, Asian investors are definitely overly cautious compared to their American peers, and also just the market. Of course, in China and Japan, and right now Korea, there are a lot of amazing VC funds, but when you look at other markets, it's still developing. Indonesia is still relatively new, Vietnam, Philippines, those are very nascent markets in the VC scene. But if you're an amazing entrepreneur, you can always, of course, succeed to receive funding, but yeah.
Okay, finally to Lambert. You started up as an Asian startup from Taiwan. So, but Asia is not really a country, right? So it's a big and very diverse place. So you have experience of expanding to Asia from Taiwan.
So first of all, I want to say being a startup in Asia, trying to get quality funding is not that easy because there's not a lot of VCs aggressively out there looking for startups. But then I think it's changing, and then all the startups, especially in China, is growing very fast. So KKBOX, we started the music service in 2004 and 5, around the end of 2004. So after we had a good success in Taiwan, so Taiwan is actually a very small place, so we were forced to also go overseas. And a lot of people will say, well, you speak Chinese, then your first country should be China, of course. But then until today, we haven't gone into China. I think the market we selected was Japan, and then also Hong Kong, and then Malaysia and Singapore. So yeah, it's not just one country. Every country in Asia, they speak different language, and the culture is very different. Just to say, for example, if you want to do internet service, mobile service, then just think about how do you do the billing. The billing is also very complicated. In different regions, different countries, they take different cuts and then different ways of working. So I think it's like I think it's the same of expanding your business everywhere. Is that you have to understand the market and your strength. And to be honest, the reason that why we put China last is because going into China is you got to have a lot of VC-funded money backed because it's a market that you're going to burn a lot of money. And of course, we're doing legit music service, and then there's basically all pirated content. It's very hard. So we decided to go to Japan. And when looking into the Japan market, then we have to think about what's your strategy. In Japan, it's a very, very conservative market. So sometimes very hard for entrepreneurs like us or a startup to really kind of make impact into the market. So maybe an equity investment is a good consider. So we received investment from like a big company called KDDI in Japan, and that was we didn't really need money, but then we really wanted to tackle the market, so that was a strategy we took. So I think there were like different regions, and then there are different cases. I think we just have to go through all the countries one by one.
Thank you. Let's try to talk about the question of if you are a European startup and you want to raise money actually in Asia, what you should do first. So you said like basically personal connection was really important. You have also experience with European or American VCs, I think. So how would you compare?
I mean, I can talk about our case only. I wouldn't generalize, but in our case, the process was much longer than one could expect initially. Like, I think we were talking, basically we were talking for 6 months on every second day, having 1 hour Skype, basically building relationship, giving promises when delivering on promises, hopefully. But obviously, like during the same process, talking to Rakuten guys and making them to believe that we can actually make it, and there is a potential, and there is IP, and there is everything. At the same time, you always have people who sort of insert information from the back door or the other doors to the same organization. So basically, you are claiming something, and when you need a third party to verify the information, and the third party needs to be trustworthy. This is a strategy we used in Japan, and now actually we are using the same strategy in Taiwan, and it's working as well. So while you are saying like Taiwan and Japan are similar, then I very much agree with you. And mainland China is very different. So we have been avoiding the mainland China so far because you need to pick your markets. But I mean, it's while you talk to London-based VCs, when it's sort of you present your slide deck, you hopefully have a follow-up call, and then it's more or less clear if you get something or no. But in Japanese case, or in our case, Rakuten's case, it was very different process-wise.
Carman, does it also, in your case, it usually takes like months and like long time before you decide to invest into like, let's say, European startup?
I think it really depends. Sometimes it could be as fast as 1 week. Yeah, so I think my suggestion would be, depends on your business model and strategy. If you are targeting the global market, some of the startup that I invest, they would have the one entity in the European country, and they will set up a holding company in the US. So they have sales office in US, and they have the research and development team in the European countries. So I have companies like that. And if you have an entity or holding in US, actually you could already tap into investors from different countries, including investors from Asia, because a lot of Asia investors nowadays, they are investing in US companies. So if you have a US mother company, you already have US investors and Asian investors. So that could be one of your global strategy. Another strategy that you could take is to set up a subsidiary in Asia and get some traction from local market in Asia. So in this way, you could also tap into the Asian investor. But the most important thing is when you look for Asian investors, you don't look for the money. You are looking for the market first. You want the Asian market, and you get the investor for the connection, for helping you to get into the market. So this should be the right way to see it, instead of just looking for the money.
Yeah, thank you. Tugce, like you're from Silicon Valley, and you've seen many Asian investors, but you're also at home with American ones. So what's your take on the differences between?
And before I touch on the differences, I could not emphasize enough the importance of like your investors to expand in new markets. I think many startups make the mistake of just seeing VCs and angels as a source of money, but I think the most important thing about working with the right VC is making sure that they have the right connections to help you expand your business in a new market. Also, the right resources for you to hire people, because you're gonna, when you go into a new market, you're gonna start building your business over there almost from scratch, and these VCs know the best operators in their country, in their market, and they're gonna be very useful for you to actually recruit, hire, and have access to strategic partnerships, maybe some of your first clients, customers. So that is definitely very important. And when it comes to fundraising in Asia for startups, I would say, again, it is very important to build those personal connections and being a part of those. Maybe LinkedIn is a great resource for that. I would say definitely do your due diligence first on the investor, reach out to their other portfolio companies, and ask the other teams that these investors invested in, and ask them what kind of investors they are. Because when we say due diligence, most people think about due diligence as something that investors do on startups, but when you're dealing with a new market and trying to raise money from a different market, you have so many players out there, and some of them are good guys, some of them are not so good guys. So it's very important that the entrepreneur also does their work on researching about the investor and what kind of value they bring to the table. And again, LinkedIn is very important. If you don't know anyone, you know that you want to expand into a new market, just reach out to people and try to get to know them, make sure that you start a relationship with them, and those would be my kind of tips.
Maybe just as a quick comment, like LinkedIn is not global. In Japan, LinkedIn is nothing.
Yeah,
Facebook is Japanese LinkedIn, and Twitter is Japanese Facebook. So it's not that universal in this sense.
Yeah, true. But Kadri, you're also actually investing in Asia. But what would be your advice for Estonian gaming startup who actually sees the product mainly targeted for Asian market? So they should actually apply for your program in KL?
Well, our program is in KL, but it's not sort of only for game studios that want to be on the Asian market. So we still offer help wherever the companies want to go to. But obviously, because we are there, we have more connections. But so in terms of advice for Estonian game companies who want to go to Asia, I definitely agree to what was said before. Connections is everything. Relationship building, starting through maybe a local partner and looking just at the market. It always depends also on the size. So there are already there are Estonian game companies that are active on the Asian markets as well, and so it's still mainly through partners. But if it's very early stage, then yes, GameFounders would be a good choice.
Thank you. Lambert, you said that basically the reason why you chose KDDI as one of your investors basically to get into Japanese market, to have the connections. And what you also said today actually about Rakuten, that you have its strong local partner is very important. One trend what I have seen is there are many investment funds in Asia which have corporate relations are very strong. So like they are basically belong to one or two big companies. And I think it opens many doors, but it might actually at the same time close some other options. What was your experience?
That's very true. After we've been invested by KDDI, which is the second or third largest mobile operator in Japan. So their major competitor is SoftBank in Japan. So after we work with KDDI, I think when we try to reach SoftBank and they say, oh, you are KDDI invested, so maybe not. But I think, of course, with a lot of persistence in our work, I think over the past 3 years of work and then keep knocking on the door, I mean, we still managed to get into SoftBank's channel. It is sometimes harder, and then, of course, we get a faster ride on our investors' channel, but we still have to work hard it's just extra effort to work on the other channels. But it's doable.
Yeah, wait, I don't know, like you have this experience already, or is it still coming? Because Rakuten is also like one corporation with existing partnerships and existing competition in the market.
Probably now, I guess, too early to say. Currently, it has been opening doors only, sort of not closing the doors so far. It's actually really, really easy to get behind the table when you can say that Rakuten is backing you. And especially if sort of, I mean, in Japanese organizations or in Rakuten specifically, if you want to get something done, you need to go top down, not from bottoms up, and then it really opens the sort of top floor doors in this sense to get in and get things done. So, and yeah, we still don't have this experience that Lambert was referring to, so.
Just to add that, I think in Japan, corporate money or corporate invested, it basically gives you a credit. So we will have to deal with a lot of music labels in Japan to get the license. So when we first go to these music labels, they don't know who you are. They basically don't talk to you at all. They may have a friendly dinner. That's it. But then with KDDI's investment, they say, oh, you're backed by KDDI, then you must be trustworthy. Although, but so afterwards, that basically opens the door. If we don't have the license, we don't even have the chance to do the business. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will just add one more thing to that. Working with strategic investors, again, it can be great, but it can also be a little tricky, like you mentioned. But it's always important to have, when you're fundraising, it's always important to have one institutional investor, like a VC group or like maybe even angel group, if you're at an early stage, before you start dealing with strategic investors. I don't know if you're around was entirely by KDDI or if they were other institutional investors. But with many strategic investors that we deal with our startups, they require another VC group to be in the round. It's with some of the strategic investors in the US or parts of Asia, it's almost like a requirement. So, just want to add that.
Yeah, it's kind of, for me, kind of the conclusion here sounds that it's very difficult actually to enter Asian market if you don't have a local partner. And local partners, the best local partner would be local investor. So I don't know, have you seen any companies actually getting into the market, for example, without having local investors? Like a kind of foreign company just trying to enter Asian market by themselves?
Yeah, I think some of the company maybe like Pi Drive. I'm not sure whether they have Asian investor. But if you are a SaaS model mobile app, maybe you didn't need to have Asian investor in the very beginning. But what I would say is if you have an Asian investor in a later stage, it can help you to open some door and speed up some of your business.
I think that's what happened to Path. I'm assuming everyone is familiar with Path. So that was a very interesting example. They organically conquered the Indonesian market. So all of a sudden, Indonesia became the #1 market in the world for Path users. I remember going to work events in Indonesia, and my Twitter feed would be all Path mentions. And when Dave Morin raised one of his last rounds for Path, he went to Indonesia and raised a round over there because the market was so big and they had so many users that it was an interesting way. The market was first and then it was the investors. But that's an exception, but that also happens.
I would actually also add here something that we discussed before. So what is Asia? I mean, I think it's also different depending on market to market. So let's say Japan is maybe a bit more closed and it's more difficult to get into China. But using Southeast Asia, which is very English speaking and culturally more similar to us as a stepping stone into the more closed Asian markets is also something that has been done. And definitely going into the Southeast Asian market is easier with even no partners in the beginning. So that's also a distinction I would make here.
Okay. I have a question, Dwight. So basically last year you got investment from Rakuten. How much did it actually change your plans and the company's geographical composition? I think actually your headquarters is still in the US, right?
Legally we are US, but it's just a box. Yeah, we didn't have an office in Tokyo before. Now we had an event 6 weeks ago, opening Tokyo office. I'm spending there every 4th week or 1 week every month. Maite is spending even more time. We have people on ground, so we definitely put a lot of focus there. But it's not the only sort of Japan focus. Rakuten is a financial investor in this sense. We are not strategic. We are still independent company doing what the founders are saying, basically, and agreeing with board, obviously. But in this sense, it's changed a lot. But in a way, it's open. It's not Japan, but now we are talking to partners in Taiwan. We are looking at Vietnam. Actually, it was before we couldn't really understand why people in Vietnam are using us because I have been to Vietnam, but Maite has never been, but there's a lot of users there. But now we sort of do it more systematically in a way. So definitely changes. You cannot regret it. I mean, but it's good. I think Helsinki, Tokyo, it's 9.5 hours flight. It's excellent. Food is super. People are nice. So why not? I mean.
So I think Asia seems to have a good. If you have a global strategy, Asia definitely should have a place in it. So, Kadri, you have also right now expanded to Asia. What is next for you?
Well, we started in Estonia, then we went to Malaysia. So if you guys heard His Royal Highness Duke of York saying yesterday how he started with Pitch of Palace, first Estonia, then Malaysia, he totally copied it from us. So whatever we do next, so you know that he will probably follow. But more seriously, we are still looking to cover more than only a part of the world. So for us, we are working with global teams. So being present all over the world is very important. So currently we are in Kuala Lumpur and we are also looking to scale up and have more regional hubs because it's very specific vertical that we have and we don't really have a lot of, so to say, competition. So it's quite convenient for us to move on and be global. But Asia is definitely a place where we want to stay because we see especially our industry growing there a lot.
And turning to tables a bit, Lambert, you're today actually here in Estonia. Does it mean that you're looking into European market?
Well, I'm here because I was invited by friends doing game industry, and then to seek opportunity for some game companies to come to Asia. But as for my own business, KKBOX, I think currently we'll be focusing on basically Asia, and then there's still a few countries that we haven't went in, like Vietnam and Indonesia. So these are the two markets that we are now focusing on to get in.
I don't know, I think we have 3 minutes left, so maybe it's good to have like 1 or 2 questions from the audience as well. So if anybody has any questions from any of us. So.
Maybe we can have a show of hands who is already operating on the Asian market.
Yeah.
So you should have questions.
Hi, my name is Vivek. I represent a state from India. So I work as a consultant with the government. So one of the things, there's lots of talks which went about funding which you can get from India or from Asian countries. But one thing which was really important, because I had lots of conversation with lots of startups in Estonia, one thing where the Asian market can actually, it's more of a comment, that one area where Asian markets can actually help the startups in Estonia is with the manpower. If you actually see the Indian market or the Chinese market or any other market, there are huge pool of talented workforce which works at almost 1/10 the cost of the European market or the US market or any other developed regions. So for example, I'm just talking about a state in India, which is Andhra Pradesh. We have around 40,000 engineers, IT engineers passing out every year. So the amount of talent pool which can contribute to your expansion plan, it's like the scope is enormous there, that's it. So that is one area you can look at Asia as your prospective markets, because the workforce you can get there is and helps you to expand much faster than any other region possible, because you can expand your team much faster through being in Asian markets. So if you actually see all the large IT corporations, they have almost 150,000, 2 lakh workforce based out of India. So whether it's Cognizant, whether it's IBM, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Google, they have huge workforce based out of India, and there's no reason a startup cannot expand your team based out of Asia. So it could be a huge market potential.
Yeah, do you also have any comments about actually hiring people in Asia?
I don't have a comment about workforce, but I have a comment about the cultural fit. Well, Lingvist is obviously it's an educational service provider, and people in Asia are willing to sort of pay for education because they see it as a way of getting a better life for themselves or their kids. So the price points are very different compared to European ones or US ones. So it's.
About talent, I would say that in our experience in the game industry, so there is a lot of talent, but there is maybe a bit less, let's say, like business-minded people and entrepreneurship sort of spirit in the sense. So there is like it's totally fine to just work for somebody, as opposed to in Europe everybody needs to have their startup, and I'm not even going to talk about Silicon Valley. So maybe that is an opportunity for the European and US entrepreneurs to go there and build their company with the talent on the market, while sort of running it in an analytical way from Europe and US.
And that's happening more and more. I think the remote work concept is getting very popular and mainstream recently. So we see a lot of companies with development teams and technical teams in Asia or in India, and the business minds are in Europe or in San Francisco. It's a very cost-efficient way to do things if you can manage a way to deal with the time difference.
Okay. Thank you. I think we are out of time, right?
Thank you very much. I have one question to the panel. You have all been to Asia. Can somebody of you bring out one example of a biggest blunder a European company has done when going to an Asian market? Like, definite no-no.
Biggest blunder, so like the biggest failure.
Failure
by
or a mistake.
European company, biggest mistake.
Usually the biggest failure is in China, mainland China. Mainland China, I mean.
But any examples?
I can think of US company like Facebook and Google. Both of them are totally blocked in China. And even you can get a VPN, you still have very unstable access. So totally blocked.
I would say maybe it's not a plunder, but
Skype? Skype is also blocked.
Sorry, that's Skype.
so maybe just not understanding the culture. I would say, like we have an experience of a studio pitching their game to a publisher, and the publisher was telling them, yes, so definitely let's look at it in the future, which is actually a Chinese no. And like the sort of like a reaction from the studio was like, okay, I'll send you my deck, so let's talk like next week. So, but actually he was told no, but he didn't get it. So I think there are a lot of those cultural nuances that should be understood before you go there.
And on our end, I mean, not a specific example, but with all the startups we worked with from Europe and US expanding in Asia, the two biggest areas where they make the mistakes was number one, hiring. We see most of these people hire and get rid of maybe 5 different operators in their first year. And the second one is marketing. The way marketing culture works in a specific country is so different from even their neighbors. So culturally, that's also a common mistake area. So marketing and hiring practices, for sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the panel. Can you please stand up? Let's make them a big applause.